Good morning and good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Glimpse of European Content webinar organized by the Dubai International Content Market. My name is Victoria de Kerdrel. I'm a consultant at K7 Media. K7 is a consultancy based in the UK with a network of consultants around the world. We offer regular insights and reports and also bespoke research for broadcasters, producers, and distributors globally. I'm delighted to introduce today's webinar with participants from Million, ZDF Enterprises, and the Spanish Audiovisual Producers Association, PATE. Each participant will give a short presentation and will then move on to some Q&A. So to begin with, I want to introduce you to Ida Matarasian, co-founder and managing director of Million, a company specializing in localization and production services in over 40 languages. Ida will give us a short presentation. Welcome, Ida.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So, I will go today ahead and present a small presentation of what we saw so far in 2021 happening in the European market, what content we have been requested to localize, and what were the biggest winners of this process. So, to say a few words about Million. Million is a global media localization and access services company, and since its foundation in 2007, we have helped many companies from all around the world to tell their story in multiple languages. So we've had the opportunity and the luck to work with a number of TV channels from different countries, VOD platforms, production and distribution companies, and also the pleasure of working, with these different types of content. We worked with feature films, preparing them either for cinema launch or for just, home theater or DVD, and then TV series, animation to factual content, and documentaries and sports programming. Now, as I mentioned, we are providing localization and access service. And just to make it clear which services exactly are within this range, these are dubbing, subtitling, closed captions for deaf and hard of hearing, audio description with those who have vision impairment, and then media and post-production service. Our motto from day one has been localizing content, connecting cultures, and we strongly believe in this motto, and we try to serve this message as well as possible. Now, in 2021, I think localizing content in Europe has seen a big shift. Because up to the pandemic, what we were seeing is lots of feature films to be dubbed or subtitled, TV drama in high volumes. Actually, I think TV drama was the highest volume. But then as the pandemic started, we saw in the mid-2020 a shift in what is happening, what content Europe is acquiring, or also what content Europe is selling. So, and we have seen also how this is affecting the localization preferences from one European country to another. Traditionally, some of the big countries like France, Spain, Italy, Germany, Austria, these had been dubbing countries. Yes, people always preferred content which is dubbed. And then while in other countries like Portugal, the Nordics, the Balkan countries, subtitles were more used for content versioning. It's worth also mentioning that Eastern Europe has been traditionally voiceover territory. Yes, countries like Russia, Poland, Ukraine, they always had a tradition of voiceover with one voice or two voices. And this is what has been always used in these territories. Now, if you see this map is, I think, a very good indication of what are the localization preferences in different territories, in different countries throughout the Europe. So if you are from a company who is selling or who is bringing content to Europe, probably it's worth knowing how or what localization you will need to support your content with. And what would make also easier for you to probably send your content to Europe, because you will have you will be able to say, oh, I have the subtitles in this language, or I have the dubs, depending if you know what is the preference in the territory. Now, as I've mentioned before, we've seen changes in the European landscape. Although the localization preferences, dubbing versus subtitling, these are deeply rooted and did not change. The type of content that was popular started to change. And it started with higher demand in kids content, because kids were at home, there was no school to entertain them, right? And then slowly we also saw that the demand in the travel or extreme sports content is also rising. TV drama was, as it was popular, it's still popular. Yes, people still watch it. But these two categories that I've mentioned, the percentage of content that people are acquiring in these two categories is becoming higher and higher. And I think that makes sense in the terms of that, you know, we want to do what we are not allowed to do. So people are not allowed anymore to travel as they used to, or as often they used to, or to deal with their sports hobbies. So now they prefer to watch it. And then on the other hand, you have the kids at home, so they need more kids content. Also, I have to mention that while the production rate for live action content was decreasing because of the pandemic, animation was again a winner, because it was possible to produce animation. So TV companies and VOD platforms, they could obtain animation content easier. Now, this content that I've been mentioning, it's been actively acquired both by VOD platforms and by TV channels. It's just the way their consumption of this content has been differed. So streaming platforms, they had seen plus 8% viewing, yes. Now, what changed there also is the time period that people are viewing the content. So if, for example, for TV, you would say that primetime evening time zones are the most popular. Now this was shifting towards afternoon, because people were home and they could change their habits of when they are viewing the TV or the streaming platform. And then huge increase on TV viewing for sports events, right? Whether these are live events or whether these are pre-recorded sport programming. And this has also increased. So for example, if you take Sky Channel, they had a record-breaking viewership of their sport programming. And then the VOD membership percentage has also increased in Europe. Now, multiple platform memberships per household is becoming the norm. And as you understand, this multiple platform membership, the VOD companies seeing more members coming into their platforms, they are trying to obtain more actively on, to obtain more content as they move forward. So they want to see, to have better offering of what they can give to their viewers. The habits in Europe, they have been deeply rooted habits, you know, in the terms of localization, but these habits are now being impacted by time. European content consumers do not change their localization preferences, but they are changing their preferences in what content is being viewed. And they are also changing their preferences on the time zone that they are viewing the TV or VOD platform. These habits started changing with the pandemic. So the time we live impacts what we watch. But it is my humble opinion that this is not going to change very fast. So it's not going to be like, oh, okay, you know what, the pandemic is gone today, and tomorrow we're getting into a habit of doing something else. There will be a more gradual shift probably, especially in Europe, because Europe has seen let's say, if we exclude some of the Asian countries like Singapore, probably a number of European countries, they have seen the strictest lockdowns and quarantine measurements. So it's going to be quite difficult to do that, fall back into their pre-pandemic habits. So we will still continue watching the obtaining the animation content, acquiring animation content, and acquiring TV drama, because people have flair for drama, and of course travel and sports content, because that's what we will be missing from our life. Our wants on what we are watching, what we are acquiring, are reflected in the content choice that you know, we are either selling or buying or even producing. So just to show you an example of let's say content that we have been working with during the 2021. Mainly in Europe, but also for, let's say, Middle Eastern market, we have prepared a small showreel that shows, let's say, a Spanish content, how this is traveling, you know, in Arabic. And then animation, as I mentioned, because animation was the biggest winner, we saw the same piece of animation being sold to multiple territories at the same time. So being dubbed or narrated into multiple languages together, and the sample of an extreme sport programming produced in Netherlands and voiced in Spanish.
فقط عن طريق الدم سننتصر. نحن المختارون في العهد الجديد. فليكن ذلك. فليكن. الكل هون، خلونا نبلش هلأ. كريستينا، مين سوى فيكي هيك؟
حبيبي دير بالك على حالك. ايه
كابتن رودريغو أعطاني هالمفتاح لسبب.
Hey, bonjour voiture bleue. Pourquoi t'es-tu arrêté au milieu de la rue? Ah, parce qu'ils veulent traverser la route. Il veut traverser. O gato também passa na passadeira. Carro azul, não há ninguém na passadeira. Podes ir. Adeus, carro azul. Olá, urso.
Uno, due, tre, quattro, cinque, sei, sette, otto, nove, 10! Ehi, giraffa! Elefante è qui? Orso lo sta cercando.
Oso, el elefante está en la planta primera. Gracias. Adiós, jirafa. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Elefante.
Zobaczmy, co jest w pudełku. O, czerwony kapelusz. Do widzenia. Hej, cześć, misiu.
Absolutamente irreal.
Al llegar a Ciudad del Cabo, tienes que probar el surf. Después de esta loca experiencia en el... Desafiar a la gravedad es algo increíble.
Este terreno es una locura.
Thank you for your attention, and I hope to be able to answer further questions on localization if anyone has a question.
Thank you so much, Aida. Thank you for giving us that great insight. Seems to be rapidly changing. Now I would like to introduce everybody to Julia Fischer, who is Sales and Acquisitions Director for MENA and Asia at ZDF Enterprises. And she's going to give us an overview of her slate and business. Over to you, Julia.
Thank you so much for the intro. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia. I work at ZDF Enterprises and in the drama department. And wait a minute, I will share the presentation. And so ZDF Enterprises is the commercial arm of ZDF, the public German broadcaster. And we have different departments dealing with different type of responsible for drama content only. It means it's series, TV movies, short format programs, web content, and I do sell both finished content as well as remake rights. As you might think, ZDF Enterprises is a German company. We are only selling German content. It's not the case. We also sell content from all over Europe, from England, from Finland, Sweden, Denmark, France, Spain, Italy, Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Australia, and so on. And so I would quickly also go on to and introduce to you some of our highlights. The first of the highlights, it's called The Window. This is actually our first co-production between drama co-production between Germany and Japan. It's a co-production with Fuji TV. So, you know, like how everyone have dreams when we're kids to be an actor or a famous person or a soccer player. And so this is a series about soccer and football. It's called The Window, but it's not about the soccer playing itself. There is like no soccer in it, but it's the show that starts when the game ends. And so this is the show. The window means that there is a period of time between the seasons when players can change, you know, the club they are playing for, and there is a lot going on behind the scenes. So this is a show about what's happening behind the scenes. This is a show about, you know, the big corporations, the managers, how you have, as a young soccer player, you have to deal with all of that, and maybe you don't know the rules of the game. And this is about young football player who is the world of soccer behind the game or beyond the game, and I will quickly play to you the trailer.
Given it appears that the most exciting player on the world stage is now part of the Scepter family.
Those guys are Scepter are sharks. They'll fuck you over.
Leeches, liars, they smell money.
More than enough.
Because damn, you know, the only reason you're here is for the posters and for the merch.
Little kids, no, they love you. Sharp haircut and all that.
There's still time to make the fans happy.
And what if I don't want to make the fans happy? No, I'm in the gym right now, actually, yeah.
So I'm not in the gym right now, I can tell you that. The next show, now we're traveling to France. It's called Boiter in Love. It's a biopic about the French philosopher, thinker, writer, a rebel called Voltaire that we all well know. And there is a funny story about the filming of the show because wife of current French President Emmanuel Macron, she actually visited the set because she is such a big fan of Voltaire. And this is a nice kind of story, this French vibe to it. Like, you know, he's young, he's rebellious, he's full of love, he's
Je suis fait nuit à point de...
C'est que le monde ne se termine jamais.
Qui est ce monsieur de Voltaire?
C'est moi. Si j'ai pu vous divertir un peu.
Un scandale.
Mais c'est fou, Excellence. Hollande s'est donné à moi sans contrainte.
Vous avouez donc.
Je ne m'attendais pas à vous voir dans des circonstances si...
Charmante. Moi aussi, un peu.
Un impie! Préoccupé de faire sa gloire!
Je veux un papier, de l'encre et une plume.
Vous n'êtes pas autorisé à écrire.
Il y a trop de mots qui s'accumulent dans ma tête. Si je ne couche pas ce paquet, je vais devenir fou.
Merci beaucoup. And now the next show and the last one that I wanted to share from our lineup, it's called Ana All In. I know that Spanish shows are super popular right now in the Middle East. And this is one from Spain. It will be released soon. It's, you know, here in Europe, even there during the pandemic, during the lockdown, when everything was closed, still gambling, even online gambling, was a big topic. And still there were many people gambling online. And not many people know that, you know, casino chains, and for example, one of the highest UK executives is a lady who is a head of a big casino chain that also not many people know. And actually, gambling is an addiction and it can ruin families, ruin lives. So in this Spanish show, the main actress, I hope I pronounce it well, I'm not good in Spanish, sorry, Maribel Verdú, she's also going to play in the next movie called The Flash next to Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. And so here she is a lawyer who takes on this big corporation and she takes them to court to defend her brother because he is accused of killing a big casino boss. And so she is a great lawyer, but she also has personal struggles and she is taking
Un grave error.
¿Qué pasa, joder?
¿Piensas que yo soy gilipollas?
220. Llame a la Policía Nacional.
Cuanta más extrema la situación, más grave el peligro. Un comentario más importante.
¿Quieres pedir disculpas? Agentes, acompañen a la abogada fuera de la sala, por favor.
Busco algo mucho más importante. Justicia.
So thank you so much for your attention. And now back to Victoria.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was a fantastic lineup. Very excited to see all of these new shows. So now we're going to move on to our last speaker, José Nevado, who is Managing Director of PATE, the Spanish Audiovisual Producers Association. Welcome, José, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dubai ICM, for inviting us to join this discussion today. I think that this is the right moment. There is a lot of interest from Spain in the Middle East, North Africa area. This year will be the first time that under the umbrella of Audiovisual for Spain, we will be sending a business delegation to participate in Dubai in the next October. So I think it's great to be here. So to start, I would like to explain a little bit what PATE does for the market. We are as a business association. What we do is we help our producers, we help our associates in order to develop the industry at the whole level. So from the institutional relationships up to the business strategy. So I would like to share with you a little bit of what we do for them, and I think it will be fantastic. It will be fantastic for me to be able to share it. Let me check if I have it right here. Perfect. So Empate, that it was born it was an association which they have all the main players in terms of broadcast content. From the last 2 years, we have been evolving as the market does, and we have included people from other areas like the feature film, so the theoretical window, and so on. Right now, we are probably the most important association in Spain. 95% of the broadcast content in Spain from independent producers is produced by our associates. 85% of the series are made by them, and probably 75% of the box office belongs to the people that is in Empate. So to start, and this is what we do in terms of help for producers to work on the strategic decisions they gotta make in order to create content. We make this little report, and I make a summary for today, and where we were showing how we see audiences, and we start adapting ourselves, taking in consideration these few facts. First, it's been a revolution in the last years how the content is consumed. We can establish 3 main blocks up to 25 years, from 25 years up to 55 and 55 plus, and that will have different ways of consuming the content. Younger people and now more and more they want to become more individuals. They are consuming content mainly on cell phones by themselves. They want to be alone. They want to consume in private and so on. And most of the content is in cell phones. And then in some cases, for special occasions, they go to the movie theaters, to those big events that they need to be. After in the age group between 25 and 55, and this is being even more accused due to the COVID pandemic, most of the content of this age group is taking place because we were working mainly from home. It's taking place in tablets and PCs, and then on the TV screen. That the content that is being consumed now on the TV screen, far from the traditional linear broadcasting, now is more and more on a smart TVs, and is based on demand kind of consumption. And plus 55, still there is a huge consumption of linear broadcasting, and those are the groups that are still going to the movie theaters, not only to those main events that they should go probably with the grandchildren and so on, just to more in regular basis to another kind of content. Probably this is based on few trends that we are going to be highlighted today in here. So up to 55 years old, as I said, content consumption is becoming more and more on demand. So linear consumption in terms of the content, it has disappearing even of the imagination of the younger people. But that happens all the way to the 55. Then in terms of what is the time, the length of the content that we're developing, probably on the 20-ish up, we are still on the consumption and the time consumption of the regular content. This meaning films of 120 minutes, episodes in TV shows or in series around 45 up to 50 minutes. On the other hand, if you go to younger people, now the demand and because the way they consume these contents, they're looking more and more for short length contents based on the windows where they're exposed in order to consume those. Then if we take a look to it, obviously this has an impact. And something that we gotta take in consideration, and this is being the proof at the end on the hard way, because we have some of our producers trying to take advantage of this new way of these new windows and ways of consuming content. We cannot use traditional codes with the younger people. So meaning that if we want to create some content that what we know is going to be seen by the audience on cell phones and is going to be young people, we need to take in consideration not only the size and the geometry of the windows, so the way the new codes, how they expect that the content is going to talk to them. So these new codes are to take in consideration. So when we are doing a pitch, in order to see how we can help of producers to sell content here in Spain, with the vision of selling at least to Europe and even more worldwide, we ask them to take in consideration 3 points of view of how things have changed. And these 3 points of views are the personal one, so from the individual, the social one, from the whole society that is around, and all the trends that we can find, and the technological one. It's really interesting, and it's a key factor, what is happening with the younger audiences in terms of uncertainty. They are not able to manage uncertainty. That's why they like short contents, and that has an impact in terms of what kind of contents they are into. That meaning that they feel really fine about franchises, prequels, sequels, remakes, and universes, because they already have some factors that they already know in order to have references and make them feel more comfortable about consuming that. Meaning that this is the one of the reasons we identified for the success of Star Wars, the Marvels, but not only that, the remakes of the Aladdins or Cinderellas, or even in the more adult part, the remakes like Suspiria, I think, as like an example, there is a remake of Yellow from Dario Argento. So this is one of the factors that I think is key to take in consideration. The other one really linked to this is nostalgia, but this will affect to the group a little bit older, from up 25 to the 50s, early, late 40s. It will be nostalgia, and that's probably one of the reasons of the success of the classic shows. And it comes to my mind things like Friends or The Office, or the relation to those times, like Stranger Things. Those are the kind of shows that they are now being really on trend. Then there is something that is becoming more and more powerful, and I think this will be one of the trends coming in general. That is the social reality and the facts that define this new global town that we have become as a world. And there are a few lines that have really relevance, like feminism, LGBTQ community ideas, the realities, the new realities about what is living in this global town. So if you take a look to the countries, I mean to the cities, probably there's the way of living in Dubai is not too different to the way of living in London, or the way of living in New York, Paris, or Madrid, or Barcelona. So you find some similarities that actually appeal to the people, and you have a few examples, like I think in feminism, series like Vis-a-Vis, series like Killing Eve are working pretty well. In the LGTB, even with the reality of another special groups of people, and putting those people into the eyes of the society, like Elite or like Campeones. So you take a look that it's not so important to show the story about the local tales or the local realities, more the global ones. And you see, like the Elite could be taking place in Spain, in France, in Dubai, whatever. Then the universal events are quite relevant, and I think that we have a huge and a great example from CDF products, that is Babylon Berlin. This is about the things that have been written. There are points in the history that represents a lot of interest for everyone. So understanding what happened before Second World War and how was the society Babylon Berlin, I think, is a great example. We have DICM too in those areas. And finally, the impact in terms of technology into the context about the algorithm, with actually, sometimes, if we want to do a shortcut, is looking for similar kind of contents that create the same kind of engagement, that already generate demand, that not only on the platforms, because most of the search happens into the user interface, rather than taking a look to how the social media is working and how they most of the times they point to their own IP properties. So having these big pictures in terms of the 3 points of view that may be important in order to see which contents should be developed, there is another 2 factors that I think it will help to minimize the risk in order to create contents that can be successful to be played on the global level, mainly with streamers and broadcasters. It is first that people already are able to identify they have developed a taste for the production quality. We think the big opportunities will be joining forces with other people, and then taking a success on different mediums, like old TV shows or TV shows that were going on local level, in local territories, or successes that's been in literature. So the production quality taste generates a lot of opportunities in terms of co-productions. I think co-production is going to be the future, looking for, and because we live in this global town, co-productions are going to be needed in order to have this production quality that the audience's search is looking for. And the previous success, that's another opportunity to have take a look to the producer's assets, is great in terms of creating partnerships. There is some shows that, because they were created for a traditional way of exploiting the business, they were really focused on one territory that probably it cannot make sense just for that geography. But if you take a look to the global success, it can work. We have a clear example in Spain is Money Heist, who started in a private broadcaster, Atris Media, not really successful there, and it was acquired by Antena 3, by Netflix, and it has become a global success for the Spanish industry. So I think that probably set up the scene, set up the framework where we can start having our discussion. Thank you very much for your patience, and I go back to Victoria.
Thank you so much, Jose. That was a great overview of not only the Spanish sector, but the global audio environment. So we're going to move on to the Q&A session now. So I'm going to ask all of our participants to put their videos on. And we're going to kick off with a question for Ida. If I may, Ida, we have a question that's come in relating to the uptick in animation that you covered in your presentation. Do you predict that there's going to be more demand? And if so, could you go into a bit more detail of animation?
I would say yes, there is going to be more demand in animation because everything foresees that this pandemic situation is not going to go away very soon. And considering the type of animation, I would say anything that's for the kids that are up to 8 years old will be in high demand, because the range that's the 8 to 12 years old, they have already other things also, computer gaming and other stuff to sort of entertain them when they are at home. But this up to 8 years old is they are getting bored.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's where the gap is, and that's where you see the growth. Great. I have a couple of questions for Julia. Julia, could you give us an idea of first of all, what has been the most successful drama in Middle East, North Africa region, and what is working best in terms of distribution? Would that be dubbed or subtitled content? So there are two questions in there for you.
Yeah, so like for the Middle East and North Africa, I think we have an amazing show that is has been sold, I think, to more than 170 territories, and it's Braun the Bridge, the original from Sweden and Denmark. This has been a show that is still up to date, even though the first season was produced in 2012. It's like almost 10 years, 9 years old. It's still a hit, and it's still a series that you can watch today, and it's it's so greatly made and amazing. The other question, it's it also depends on the territory. Like in the Middle East, we usually make our clients do their own subtitles or the dubbing. It's a preferable way to work for us because everyone has their own requirements. We work a little bit differently here in Europe, but for the Middle East, it's up to the client.
Maybe I could take that question back to Ida. I mean, do you see in this particular region that there's a preference for subtitled or dubbed drama series?
For Middle East, we definitely see preference for dubbing.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, I'm just going to move on because we actually have so many questions from the audience, which is great. I'm going to move over to Jose, if I may. Jose, there is an increase in the consumption of Spanish content in MENA on VOD and TV in general. What could you tell us? What is the genre that has been most popular across the board?
I think that the most popular shows are the ones that are being impulsed by the streamers. So we have the Spanish production is now trying to speak in telling these global universal stories which we can be identified for all the time. So things as Money Heist, things as Elite, or even things like The Thief are having their local stories that are being really successful. But we more and more we have discovered that we don't need to have these special local stories, because if you find that this universal taste, this universal appealing of one of the stories, it will work for everyone. I think for us, there is another factor, and this is really incredible. For us, in terms of content, the opportunity is so big that we have seen it for the first time that some of the Spanish content is being consumed in markets so complicated as the US, even with subtitles. It was not how audiences were consuming that. So I think the key part is appealing to global audiences with global stories that is difficult and easy at the same time, because as I said before, we're living in this global town.
Okay, great. I have another question for Ida. You, as you covered in your presentation, you continued your business throughout the pandemic in order to meet the surge in demand. Could you tell us how you navigated this period when so many countries were in lockdown?
Well, we have been lucky in the sense that we had already most of our systems on cloud, so they were not location dependent. The part that was location dependent was how we are directing the actors, the dubbing director, how works with the actors and records them, the acting part. And we were forced to add certain remote dubbing tools that would allow us to work remotely with the actors, because most of them, not only they could not come to the studio, but they were stuck in some location that they could not travel at all.
Okay, and could you just staying with Ida, just to there's a follow-up question. There's been much talk about subtitles improving children's reading skills. So when they've been doing home learning and if they've been watching their favorite animation with subtitles. Could you tell us a little more about your closed captioning process?
So for me, having closed captions on animation is first of all inclusivity issues. So you're including also a group of children that are deaf or hard of hearing. And then as a follow-up to that, you know, you have also the side effects of improving reading speed or improving maybe foreign language knowledge, right? But to say this, I have also to mention that to make this work for children, you have to be very careful. It's not the same, it's not similar as to making it for grown-ups, because grown-ups have higher reading speed. We can read more characters within 1 second than kids can do. So as a process, it's more complicated. We're trying to condense the text to reduce it to the level that you know, children can actually read within the time that this line is being also pronounced on the screen.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so we have a question for Julia. Julia, in your role, you also acquire for ZDF enterprises. So if a producer in MENA or anywhere else in the world would like to pitch a project to you for distribution, what are you looking for and what are you not looking for?
We're looking for, thank you so much. Yes, I'm also doing acquisitions at the same time, which means mostly like we're looking for co-productions to enrich our catalog. Probably the first will be, we would like to have something coming from the region that everyone could relate to internationally, that would also work internationally. And those should be like a global stories that, you know, can easily sell in other territories as well. Then I think it's also important to have or think that, you know, it's always, you know, we are normal people. It's always easier to get caught by something like where there is a famous actor or just a brand that you can relate to. So those kind of things are also easier to relate to and to sell. Therefore, please reach out to me. Would be happy to discuss, to read, but please keep in mind that those aspects are important as well.
Okay, great. So just carrying on the theme of co-production across the region, I actually have a question for Jose. Are Pate open to co-productions with companies in MENA, and is this something that you support as an association?
Yeah, I mean, Pate is not producing itself, so we can be the link between these initiatives, and we can find a partnership. So we can find the right partners for each of the projects. So we are always developing these events where we have this networking, where we can try to do this matching, which sometimes is becoming easier and easier now with in the digital era, and I think that there is tons of opportunities for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so feel free to contact me.
Yes, so you, although you don't produce, you facilitate and you can connect the dots. Fantastic. Okay. All right, so I'm going to try and go through as many as possible. If we could quickly go back to Julia, how important are scripted formats to your business? And do you view this as an intrinsic part of your catalog and something that's becoming maybe more popular?
Yes, of course, we are also actively selling and having not only finished programs, but as well remake rights, adaptation rights available. We are dealing with it, so everyone interested, please reach out to me. We have a rich and diverse catalog. One of the latest successes is called Before We Die. It was originally a Swedish format that we also sell as a finished program, and then it was picked by in the UK, and now it was recently broadcasted on Channel 4 successfully. And it's commissioned by Channel 4 in the UK as well as PBS in the US. And it's a great example that, you know, format rights is working well. And I find the adaptation as great as the original.
Okay, fantastic. Right, so just going back to Ida, Ida, how can High Million support producers when localizing content and abiding by strict censorship rules and regulations?
I think the fact that we have worked with so many regions gives us a value added of knowing what are the regulations in each region, because at some step in our work we have encountered these regulations and we came across them. And what we do when we see that this is a new production company or distribution company and they don't know the region for which they are localizing, we take time actually to understand where they are going to send this content, what they might encounter, and we sit down with our production company or distribution company and discuss what we have seen and what we would suggest to do if they did not consider this yet. So probably our biggest help there is giving sort of the value-added consulting, I would say, of our experience.
Okay, fantastic. So if we can just focus on I think Julia and Jose touched on this in your presentations, but maybe this would be for you, Jose, and Julia, if you'd like to comment. What do you think it is about Turkish dramas that has got Spanish audiences hooked on them, and what is the appeal?
Oh, that's actually a great question. We have seen that at the end, as we were saying, stories that appeal to the realities are necessary. We felt that in the regular broadcast, in the public and the private broadcast, the fiction was really mainly based on historic characters and things like that, and it didn't work. It didn't engage the people. So suddenly we have a couple of tests where they were picturing the reality of that it was not on the highlight, which was the countryside reality in the 21st century. So at the end, the difference are not so big in terms of how we live now globally, and that's have create this really huge appealing. Now even we know that we're working with Netflix and too, and Netflix is concentrated on those contents because they have a global appeal. So at the end, the interesting thing, as Julia said before, it is the stories that they can appeal local and globally, and those are the best stories.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to end shortly, but I have one question to all three of you. And this is really relating to 2021 and the pandemic. COVID and OTT platforms have driven a rise in independent viewing instead of traditional family viewing. There's been a corresponding increase of almost 20% in the production of thrillers, crimes, suspense shows. Do you agree that independent viewing is having an impact on content production strategies? Does anyone want to kick off with that?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Yeah, of course. I think the individual consuming is one of the reasons that I think we have identified some other trends. So I think the key point right now, in order to see which one is going to be the next big highlight or the big next opportunity, it will be to focus on those social realities that I was mentioned before. That's what it is. I mean, there is some contents that are kind of difficult in some parts of your life to share, even with your closest family, with actually appeal more to you. And I think that's where we got finding and those opportunities that we are seeing for really tricky themes talking about. So things like LGBTQ or things about feminism are not always the things that you can share, even if they should. But so I think that's where you can find some huge opportunities, and it will be really trendy in the next few years.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that since we have everyone viewing how you view things, they developed also with technology. And I think individual viewing is also facilitated by the technologies we have, that everyone has an own iPad, has an own phone, and that like I think that it's a technological question that, now you can sit in your bed with your phone and you can watch something like that you like, and you are not depending anymore on one television that you maybe had as a family, and you had to always share the screen time. And this is why like also niche content for everyone, there is like a lot of niche content that's also interesting individually, depending on what you want to see. So yes, it will change and it will drive as taste will also change. But I think it's also a technological question that now we have more possibility to have individual viewing.
Fantastic.
Julia, I think now that we can watch, content on our own, it sort of highlights of what different people want. It's not just that we choose, piece of content that's family comfortable or family for family viewing. We watch what we want, and this is showing also different tastes.
Mm-hmm. So it's opening up more and more opportunities. Yeah. Great. Okay, well, that's all we'd have time for. Thank you so much, Julia Fischer, Aida Martirosyan, and Jose Nevado. It's been a real pleasure talking to you all. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you also to the audience for participating in today's session. And I would really encourage you to join DICM's Focus on MENA upcoming webinar on the 20th of October. Thank you very much, and take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.